Hello, good morning, welcome back. Mr. Snow here. We're going to be revisiting our portfolio pages. Now, I've recorded some videos before and then somehow the audio got messed up. So I'm going to re-record the portfolio portions. I'm going to kind of break this up. And today we're going to be going over your page navigation for your portfolio. So I'm going to be taking a look at some icons using Font Awesome and some of the standard Glyph icons. Or Glyph icons? Glyph icons? I don't know. If you know how to say that, I have no idea. Anyway, then we're also going to be taking a look at some templates for some nav bars and how we can manipulate that and how nav bars can link to various parts of our page. So that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right in. So let's go here. So as you can see, I kind of picked up where the first video left off. I have a cute little puppy here for a background. I have my body and my CSS here. So I have no repeat and center, and it's fixed in size. If you remove this fixed, it'll actually slide up and down. But I just want a fixed background. I want it pinned to the back. I want just things kind of scroll in front of it. I have my fluid container. All right, now remember that's a Bootstrap class. I have a font that I am importing from Google APIs here. It's going to be a CSS font family of Lobster that I'm going to be applying, the same one we've used prior with your freeCodeCamp stuff. And I have an array of background images that I can switch just by changing this number using jQuery. So in settings here, if we go to JavaScript, you can see I enabled jQuery. If I go into the CSS, you can see that I enabled Bootstrap. Now I also have enabled here Font Awesome. All right, so Font Awesome is something that we can use. Font Awesome, as you can see, has various icons in it, and Bootstrap itself has various icons that we can use. So I've enabled that as well. So how do you know what you want to use, and do you want to enable Font Awesome? And how do you even know how to do that? All right, so here's just Google. We can Google some things. So let's Google Font Awesome Bootstrap CDN. There you go. And when you start typing that in, you can see that you get a line of an actual address where the code is located, and you can go ahead and copy and paste that right into your CSS pen settings. Okay, so I'm under CSS, and you have another spot here where I can actually add a source, all right, or an external resource for CSS, and that's where I'm going to be popping this in. And again, I just Googled Bootstrap Font Awesome CDN, and that allows me to drop that in as well. So now you can choose what kind of icons you want to use for your nav bar. All right, I figured to get that out of the way first so we have our settings all complete. So make sure you go ahead and do that. All right, so there's your CSS. You should have Bootstrap 3.3.7. You should have Font Awesome, and then jQuery, and that's stuff you should have had after the first portfolio. And that's going to be our setup for the day. The other things that you're going to want to do is try to figure out a nav bar. Now, navigation is something that you can really play with and get really, really into. But for this project, we're just trying to get a very, very basic web page template that we can use for various projects to make things look good. And what I want to do is I want to create this template that I'm going to be using for my projects moving forward. So how am I going to do this? Well, you notice I have a body and I have the link at the top here, and I have a container fluid or a fluid container. I'm going to be working on my HTML today for the most part here. So inside of my fluid container is where I want to have my nav bar. Now, when I have a nav bar, I want it to be, I'll give myself a little more room. I want it to be fixed to the top. So I always want to have a nav bar that kind of floats to the top. So no matter where I scroll in my web page, I can still have the navigation because I'm going to have all of my stuff for my portfolio on one single page. So what is that going to look like? Well, if you Google Bootstrap navigation bar, you'll get tons of links and pages and examples. And I went through a bunch of different pages and examples till I found one that I wanted. And here is one that I found that I wanted. And I want to have a website name with my portfolio. This one has 3 built-in sections, which kind of works out pretty well for me because I want an About Me section. I need a portfolio section, and I need a contact section. And I also want to have a section over here where I can just link to my CodePen stuff because I want to reuse this format for other projects as well, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel when I'm going through and doing my other projects. And if you notice, you have an example and you can actually pick up example code. And you don't have to know how to build something from the ground up. You can look up something that you like and then modify it, which is really something pretty beautiful about coding. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy. I'm going to paste the nav bar in. And I'm just going to Control C. Okay, and there we go. We now have a nav bar that I pasted in. All right, and you can kind of see what this looks like. So we have a nav bar, and it doesn't really do anything right now. It's not linked to anything. It just is put right in here. Now, there's some things I want to walk through this nav bar. Since it's going to be floating always on top no matter what content is in there, we're going to look at this specific one. Now, you can choose your own. This one, if you take a look at the code here, I have this. I'll give you some space so you can kind of see. So the first thing with the nav bar that you're going to notice is that you actually have a nav class. So there's an opening and a closing nav tag here. And the class that we're using, we're going to be using some Bootstrap classes as well. So we have a nav bar, and that nav bar I have is going to be inverse. Okay, so what does inverse do, nav bar inverse do? Well, let's take a look at this, and I'll show you. I'll comment that out. Right, nav bar inverse. All right. Why did you that? Because I am. All right. So you can kind of see what that does. So this is what a normal nav bar looks like. It just kind of floats. But when I go ahead and make it inverse, you can see how now I have this flip. So I have a gray on white or a black on white. I like that look. I'm going to be using black and gray as my background as well. All right. The next pieces to your nav bar that you're going to have, okay, is a, where are we at here? Is going to be a separate container. So you notice we have another fluid container inside of our nav bar. So we have a nav bar that we call, it's inverse, and it's inside of a fluid container. All right. And then we have another div here for a header. All right. So it's a fluid container, and then this is just going to be a nav bar header class. And let's take a look next. We have our first link after that, and we're just going to be having a link, a link, a link, a link. So you can see here that we have something that says website name. So I don't want website name in here. I want this to say Mr. Snow's portfolio, okay? You can see now it's actually, I actually have Mr. Snow's portfolio, and this is a Navbar brand class, and you can see this hash here, which is our placeholder for somewhere that I want to go. All right, so when I click this button, I want to go to the, let's say I want to go somewhere to the top of the page. Well, I can actually have an anchor tag somewhere on my page, let's say right after the nav bar itself, that is the top of the page. Therefore, when I link, I'm not linking to an external site like we did in the tribute page, but I'm actually linking to somewhere else on my page itself, which is what I want to do. So how am I going to handle this? Well, I'm going to get into the different sections that as I'm going to be building. But for now, I'm going to be naming this hash and then top. And so when you click on the portfolio, you're going to jump to the top of my page. And I'm going to be adding this in later. So in my next video, I'm going to be breaking up my page, my single page application here, into various sections. And then I'm going to be using an anchor tag with the name of top to get to the top. Okay. Excuse me. So here we go. So I have the portfolio, which I'm going to be bringing to the top. After that, I have an unordered list, and it is just going to be a nav bar list, and it's going to be a standard navigation here. And here's a class for active, and what that does is it highlights sort of the things that you're clicking on. I don't really like the way that looks, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this class of active, because as you can see, we have home and active, so it's actually colored in darker black here. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to be deleting this active class. Okay, and notice now it's no longer highlighted. I just kind of like it like this, where as you highlight, as you roll over, they turn brighter white. And I've kind of played with a lot of nav bars and found one that I thought that fit my own aesthetic, and one that gave me a nice, easy template. So don't necessarily just play with this one, but you can build this one and follow along, and then find another one that you like better. You can have another one that might be sitting on the left side, maybe just the top, or the right side, maybe you have it floating. And again, you can kind of find these as well. So I know I need multiple sections here. I need an about section, all right, just all about me. I'm going to have an actual portfolio with some stuff in it, and then I'm going to have a contact section at the bottom. So this nav bar was simple because it has 3 sections and 3 places I needed to go on my page, because that is the challenge that we have. So I'm going to have an about me section. So I'm just going to type about me. All right. And I'm going to change this name to about again. So this is going to be a link in my page to my about section. And the name of that section, or the name of that anchor tag that I'm going to place in later, is going to be about. The next section that you need is your actual portfolio. There's my portfolio section. All right, and then what am I going to name this? Well, portfolio. Now you can just put like numbers or something, or page 1, page 2, or section 1, section 2. But I think it's very important to actually name your tags and your labels what they actually are. So when you go back and you look at your code in a month, 2 months, or whenever, and you're going to be using this as a template for later, you can actually see where it is linking. And you can change things, so it's not a portfolio page. Maybe it's something else, so you know exactly what it's doing. All right, so I have a portfolio page. And the last section I want is a contact section. Contact section. And I'm just going to name this again contact. So it just kind of works out that I have a portfolio. So no matter where I am, I can go to the top of the page. I can go to the About Me section, portfolio, contact section. Now, I really don't want this sign up and log in here. I don't need that. I only really want one other button here. And one other button that I want is going to be just a link to my, it's going to be a link to my CodePen things. And so let's take a look at this. So we have a nav bar right. So we have another unordered list. So we have an unordered list here. All right. So after we have our nav bar brand, then we have an unordered list with a separate class of just nav bar nav. And I have 3 items, 1, 2, 3, that are listed right next to each other, 3 buttons that are right next to each other. We end this list. Now I start a new unordered list. Now, as opposed to having that unordered list start on the left side, we used nav bar right. What does that do? It sends everything to the right side. So instead of being here, it's going to start on the right side. So you can have as many buttons as you want on the right if you like. But for me, I'm just going to delete this one section here, so I only have one thing. Okay. And I don't want this to say sign up. I want it to link to my different pens. Okay. So there. Snow's pens. Now here, I don't want this to link somewhere on my web page. I want this to link to an external site. And I happen to know that right up here in the top, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste in the base website I have for my pens. All right, so when you click on this, you're going to jump to my actual profile page with all of my pens on it. Okay. Now, we have glyph icons here. Now, the glyph icons are going to be used a little bit differently. Notice that the glyph icons here are in a span. Okay, so in order to use them, if we go to, I just Googled glyph icons, all right, for Bootstrap, and it's going to show you how to use them. So here are the different glyph icons. So let's just say, since I'm linking to my pens, I want to use this pencil. All right. And you can kind of see that we have our glyph icons. And so it says glyph icon, pencil. So if I copy that, and I can paste this, glyph icon, pencil. That copy drop down. All right. And you can see that I get a pencil there. There we go. So that's cool. I can put that in a span. You can also put this in an inline element, which is an I. So since I have enabled Font Awesome, I can go to Font Awesome. I don't know. I just like Font Awesome better. So if I type in Font Awesome and I type in a pen, it automatically gives me different pens I can use. So there's a pencil and a square. So I happen to like the way this looks. So if I click on this, now you can see that there's different sizes and scaling for this. So here we go. This is what it looks like. So I am going to just now copy this code. Notice that I have an inline element, which is another way to do this. So I can just copy right over this span. Now I can paste in my new Font Awesome. And again, we can use the Font Awesome icons because I've enabled Font Awesome because I copied and pasted in the CDN from before. So I knew how to find that because I just Googled it. All right, so I added that in. And again, you just Google Font Awesome Bootstrap CDN, and it gives you that link, and you can copy and paste that in your links. And so you notice I've done a lot of copying and pasting here. Okay, I've done a lot of copying and pasting, and the reason for that is I wanted to get quick navigation in here. And so now if I click on Mr. Snow's pens, notice it opens up right in the same panel. All right, so I don't necessarily need to open up in the same panel. If you remember from the other video, when we did the page, we can use target equals blank as well. All right, with this anchor tag. And what that's going to do is allow us to open up in a new window. Okay, there's my pens. And I just added that in right inside the main anchor tag here after you have the href. And it says target equals blank, and that just allows CodePen to open it up in a new tab. So I have my pens that open up in a new tab. I've got all these buttons that go nowhere. But let's just say that I want to add in my top. So where is my top? So the top of your actual page, I want to be the very top. Now, since this nav bar is fixed to the top, it doesn't really take up any space when it comes to the HTML. So I'm just going to put in anchor tag here, and I'm just going to name my anchor tag, right? Top. And it's not going to have anything. I'm just going to close it. And what that's going to do now is let me close this actually. When I click on this portfolio, now it's going to link, no matter where I am in the page, it's going to bring this up to the top. All right. And we're going to be working more with this later, but just so you know, this is how we name our anchor tags. So when I see my right here, this hash top, that's going to find the name top and then link to that. And I'm going to get into this in the next video when we start laying out the structure of the different sections. Okay, so at this point, you should be able to have a nav bar with the names and the areas that you want to go to. You can link to your outside pins. All right. You can be able to link to the top of your page, and you have set up links with the sections that you need for About Me, Portfolio, and Contact that we can name in the next tutorial video. All right. So hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you all next time.